Yeah.
Everyone's joining. Yeah.
Yeah. So before we start, we would first introduce ourselves. But first, before introductions, I would like to welcome you all to this online open day to Saxion Physiotherapy International class. And my name is Gerald Gosselink Ramos. I'm a physiotherapy lecturer at Saxion. I teach at first year, second year, third year student classes, and I also supervise graduation projects reports in the fourth year. So my subjects that I teach are anatomy, the musculoskeletal anatomy. I also teach neuroanatomy, neurology, orthopedic pathology, and I also teach some research as well, and some practical classes every now and then. And Jen?
Yeah, thank you. My name is Tian. I'm an international physio student in Saxion. I'm in the second year right now. I'm from China. Yeah, it's not much to say about me because I'm just study here. But I've been staying in Saxion for 2 years already, so I kind of get to know the program already. And so in these sessions, if you have any questions you want to ask, and if you want to know like from a student perspective, and you can put the question there, and we will try our best to answer all the questions you have here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are two ways to ask questions. One is to type your question in the chat, and another is to click on the icon at the bottom of your screen with a person raising his hand. And when you've done that, we'll see that you've done that, and we can call your name and go to your question. And I think before this official session started, Zhao has a question. And Jen, would you like to take over?
Yeah. So in the chat part, Zhao typing the questions. He wants to know if you need the knowledge of biology before you start off these courses. From a perspective, I want to say, yeah, it's not required you have that, but I think it's highly recommended, even like from student aspect, because in the first year, you're going to learn about a lot of anatomy, that is basic knowledge you need, and also physiology. If you already have biology knowledge, especially like human biology, then it's really helped you a lot. It's kind of saved you a lot of time during the first year, because the first year is very important, and there's a lot of material covered in that year. And if you already know something, then it will give you less burdens. Otherwise, you might have to study much harder than other students. So yeah, it's great to have, but I think it's okay if you don't have any, as long as you're willing to learn in the first year, then it's okay.
Yeah. It certainly depends on your educational system where you come from. Some schools have the biology already in the package of subjects that students learn, and some to a less degree. But what Shan said is true. If you have that, it is an advantage, but it's not a must for the program. Earlier, I saw Yana raise her hand. Yana, would you like to type your question? So maybe Yana is still typing her question. Whilst we're waiting for Yana to finish her question, does anybody else have a question?
Yeah, you can either type in or if you want to chat. Then,
okay, we have Ria. Ria, do you have your question ready?
Okay. Ria says, which master degrees could we pursue after obtaining our bachelor's? Does it have to be related to physiotherapy? For the master degree, it's quite personal choice. In Netherlands, you can also go to a master degree that is on the physio, like manual therapy or other like neurotherapy and other very specific field. But most of the program is in Dutch, so that's so you have the language barrier a little bit. But you can also pursue other degrees like sports science or other like movement science that is also related to the physio. It totally depends on your career choice actually, because if you want to go to the clinical side, then you might want to pursue the degree that is more focused on the clinical. And if you want to do like research, then you don't have to have the master degree that is about the physiotherapy. It can be something else. So it's very depends on your own choice. Yeah. Sure, you have anything to add?
Yeah, so after finishing your bachelor at Saxion, if you choose to study at Saxion, you can take your master degree anywhere in the world. So you're not limited to just having a master degree in physiotherapy, like what Sean said. To give you an example, I come from the Philippines originally. I moved to the Netherlands. In the Philippines, I was a physiotherapist. I moved to the Netherlands and I did a master in health sciences research with the specialization in health economics. So you could diversify when you are finished with your bachelor, when you're thinking of which master you want to take on. And after that, I did my PhD as well in the Netherlands. So in terms of the language, it really depends on where you're taking the master. My master courses that I followed here in the Netherlands, that was in a different university, and they had it in English. But you're not limited to taking your master only in the Netherlands with your bachelor in the Netherlands. Yeah.
Yep. And we have no next questions from Beata.
Yeah.
Asking about what is the admission limit for Saxion physiotherapy? Will anyone who fills document be accepted? Yeah, I think they do have a selection process because everybody sending the file on the February, and now I think all the teachers and professors are going through the selection process, and they have their own standards, and they also have the interview maybe coming on May if I'm not wrong. Then after all this process, yeah, they do have a selection process, so it's not like everyone submit the document will be accepted.
Yeah. On average, there are about 200 plus people who try to apply to the program. And with the selection, we tend to accept initially about 90 students. And as the weeks go by, some of those people who have been initially accepted into the program, they withdraw. And so on average, at the start of the school year, there are around 60 students who partake in the first year program. So yeah, we try to keep it in that number around 60 to make it manageable, and also to increase the learning opportunities for the students so that they get a good contact time with the lecturers, with the teachers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we have a question from Sarah.
Yes, about level of English. Do you need? It's possible with B2. I'm not quite sure about what the B2 level is, but I do know like you have to like if you're from non-native speaking English country, you have to pass the English test. Yeah, the
Yeah.
IELTS.
Yeah.
So if you pass that test, then you have enough English. But
Yeah.
on the other hand, it's better if you have some vocabulary. It's more focused on the biological and more scientific vocabulary. That will also help you a lot for the first year because a lot of stuff we learn is medical terms. So if you know that first, then it's easier. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think to add to that, the IELTS, the academic IELTS that most people whose English is not the first language, that is equivalent to the European Framework of Languages B2 level.
Okay.
So if you have that, then you're good to go. You can follow most of the English things that are being done.
Yeah. Okay. Now we have our next one. If If the program also available part-time or due, I don't think the program is possible to do the part-time because it's actually a lot of coursework.
Yeah.
And especially for the practical part, you need to be there to do the practical. That it's very important stuff. So I think it's always full-time. So yeah, it's not a problem.
Yeah, so you have to earn your credits, and in Saxion we have developed the program so that you're going to use up all of those 40 hours in a week, ideally, to attend the lectures, attend the practical classes, and also to do your own self-study, and also to do your other projects that you need to submit at Saxion. So combining it with something else, following the course as a part-time student, that's not possible at the moment.
Yeah, and the first year is quite busy. So yeah.
Yeah.
The next question is how is the age level in the classes? Yeah, I mean, for my classes, it varies. So we have some students who just graduate from high school, so it's like 18, 19 years old. We also have students who had a formal bachelor's degrees, so now it's like 25, 26. And we also have students who also work for a long period of time before and then come to this program as a physio students. So it varies from like 20s to 30s, even sometimes 40s. So it's quite diverse in international classes as people's background.
Yeah. Some people join the program directly after leaving secondary school. And some people, as Jan said, have had some previous life before, so they may have had a bachelor, a couple of masters. Yeah, the range is quite diverse. So from as young as 17, 18 to somebody as mature as about in the late 30s.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I had a bachelor's degree before this one, so for me, it's the second kind of a career turning point. So it's quite common as like students like me being international class. So next one is the bachelor diploma enough for opening your own clinic? I think it depends on where you want to work. But I think in the Netherlands, I think it's sufficient, right, Gerald? That's questions I'm not quite sure.
Yeah. Well, opening your clinic. I
Yeah.
mean, after in the Netherlands, once you've finished the bachelor program, you've graduated, you can register here in the Netherlands as a physiotherapist to be a fully licensed physiotherapist. But since the international program is offering the course in English, you would need after the program, you'd need to follow some language courses, or at least prove via an official examination that you can speak Dutch fairly well, up to the B2 level. So you need that language examination certificate and your diploma from Saxion to be registered here in the Netherlands as a physiotherapist. And then from that time on, you can directly work with the patients here in the Netherlands. And of course, opening up your own clinic, that will depend also on your budget, your entrepreneurial skills as well. So it's up to you after that.
And also, if you're not going to stay here in Netherlands for work, you can also go to other countries. So far, I know like Australia, their physio system also recognize the bachelor diploma from Saxion. So which means you don't have to pass actual tests because all the curriculum is fit into their framework. So you can kind of if you find a job in Australia, then you can just transfer over there. It's not that hard.
Yeah,
And they're English speaking, so it's yeah.
Yeah, so if I may add, most countries which have the bachelor level as to entry level into the profession, then you can use your Saxion diploma to have your diploma sort of like accepted in the country where you want to practice. And that's for most countries, except for countries which require you to have a doctorate level for physical therapy. That's a different story. You need to do some courses afterwards, some programs afterwards. Yeah.
Okay. Our next question is asking, is it hard to deal with language barrier in terms of speaking fluently English and Dutch? For the English part, because it's an international class, so all the language is in English, and the teacher can speak English quite well. So if you pass the B2 English level test, I don't think that would be really a big problem. And you can also get help in the first year if the language is really an issue. Like for the test, you can always bring the dictionary with you if some of the language is hard for you. For the Dutch part, you don't really need the Dutch because in the Netherlands, most people speak English quite well, and in the class, you don't really need to speak Dutch. So it's very personal choice. If you want to stay here to work in the Netherlands, then you probably need to learn Dutch. If your future goal is not really staying here, then Dutch is really not an issue because you can always use English quite well here in the Netherlands. It's quite international country here.
And if I may add to what Chan just said about speaking English fluently, so people have different levels of language proficiency, and we don't expect everybody to speak fluent American English or fluent British English in the class. I mean, as long as you can make yourself understandable to the other person, and I think that's good enough. And you have clear proof that your English capabilities are up to the minimum of Saxion, then there's no problem. And don't hesitate, don't worry about you not being able to enunciate the words properly and so forth. It will come in time, it will develop. So use this also as a chance to pick up your English skills. And then if you're not going to work in the Netherlands, you're going to go back to your country of origin, then you've had a very international experience.
Yeah. Okay. Our next question is how big is the groups? If you mean the whole class, for me, like first year, we have around 60, 70 international students.
Yeah.
And the second year, we also have some Norwegian students who is also joining as an exchange program. So it's around 80 or 90 people in the whole class. But all those people will be divided into like smaller group in the practical class. So in the practical class, we have much less people, normally around 15, maximum like 20 people, because we have to make sure like every people have enough space to practice. So most of the time we will be divided into smaller group, like 5 or 10 people or 15 people.
Yeah.
So it's easier to manage. Yeah.
Yeah, so in the first year, whenever you have lectures, for example, if you're going to be joining for anatomy or pathology lecture, so I'll be teaching to everybody in the first year, and then when you have the practical classes, the first year is divided into 2 groups, and then each group is divided into 3 subgroups. So in the practical class, you will have 3 subgroups working together. But then there are some classes where in the you subdivide again. You go into your different subgroups. So a group of about 10 to about 12 people, students per teacher, and you discuss cases in that small group. So you get more in-depth discussion with the teacher in those sessions. Yeah. And then in the second year, so Chan said you have Norwegians coming in. Saxion has a tie-up with a Norwegian University of Applied Science in Oslo, Bjørknes. And in the second year, you get an influx of Norwegian students with you, and they continue on in the third year. And and in the fourth year, people go to their own individual clinical placements.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Our next question is the degree accepted in all EU countries, and can I work as a physiotherapist in all member states? The first question is, I think the degree is accepted in all the EU countries. As for the work, because different countries, they have different regulations, so you might have to go through a different bureaucracy process, like get registration. Things done in different countries. This is different in each country, and it might take some time. So you have to know this, kind of do the research by yourself, like how this process is going on. But for the degree, it's all accepted in EU countries.
Yeah, we've never had any problem of people not getting accepted, registered as physios in their countries where they want to practice. So, what Chen said, best to talk to the regulatory bodies where you need to register for, and ask what are the requirements and so forth. But so far, people who graduated from Saxion can practice in other EU countries as long as there's equivalency between the programs.
Yeah. All right. The next question would be, will the deadline for the scholarship application be extended? That's a question I don't know if I can answer here because I don't really know. You probably have to ask about the office that is handling the scholarship, because for our students right now, it's also unknown due to the special circumstance right now. Yeah. So
you need to ask the international office for that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an international student. I'm also applying for the scholarship, so I don't know either because you know, right now it's quite special time, so you have to be a little bit patient on that one. Next questions, where it is possible to take the practice. I'm not quite sure about what this question means. If you mean like where the practical class take place or something,
Well,
could you?
maybe Marianne could type her a question, like try to explain herself with her question. And whilst Marianne is doing that, we'll go to the next question of Maine.
Yeah. Okay, the next question is for me to ask if I am fluent in Dutch. If yes, how long did it take you to learn it? Not yet. I'm learning the Dutch right now. Yeah, I started learning Dutch since last year. I'm like kind of slow progress. I mean, personally, it's not that hard to learn Dutch, but just you have to devote your time into it and try to practice. Because here in the international class, it's very likely you speak English a lot and you don't really use Dutch. So if you want to learn Dutch, you need to find a chance to make friends with Dutch students, and then you have more chance to practice. And if you really devote it, then I think you can handle the language in 2 or 3 years during the study here. Then I think it's possible to kind of pass the B2 test. Yeah. The next question is International Bachelor English A pass? Is it, or should I still pass additional test? This one I'm not quite sure about the English A pass.
Yeah. So the requirements for application is that you need to, if English is not your native subject and native language, you need to pass the IELTS examination or the Cambridge examination or the TOEFL examination to prove that you have a sufficient level of English. So that would translate to a B2 level here in Europe. So so just having a diploma from your school, that might not be accepted. But if you have any doubts, you can always send your query about the language level to the international office, and they'll be able to help you further in how to assess your English level.
Okay. All right. The next one is, how does accommodation system works? Are the dorms, or do we have to find our own accommodation? So that's it depends where you're from. If you are from non-EU country, that is country outside European Union, and then you have to live in the school accommodation for the first year, and the school housing will arrange the accommodation for you. If you are from EU countries and then you have your own choice, you can find your own place. If you find it's very hard to find a place, you still can contact the housing. They will put you into a list if they still have accommodation left after all other students, like non-EU students, already moved in. If they still have space available, then you still can live in the school accommodation. But ideally, you find your own place to live in the first year. That's free of choice. There's no restriction on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, sure.
Oh, it's good. So we're going next to Maya.
Okay. Regarding the internships throughout the years, are those being paid, or does this vary in terms of where you apply for internship? Yeah, it totally depends on the place you go, if they are willing to pay you or not. Most of the time, it's not really possible. We do have internship several times. So in the first year, we have a short internship in the first year, and for 3 weeks. And for the second year, we have the 2 times internship. Each of them is 3 weeks too. So this is the short internship. It's mostly just for you to experience the clinics. And then the biggest internship is in the last year, in the 4th year. So that's 1 year internship into different settings. So I think it's more likely you probably can find a place pay you in the last year, because that's the place you work for a longer time. So it totally depends on if you can find a place. Yeah. Our next question is, you spoke about 40-hour study weeks. If it's possible to have a part-time job on the side as financial support. Yes, I think it's possible if you can handle the school work. Because I know some of my friends, they also do actual work, like in the Uber Eats or work in the restaurant, something like that. As long as you can handle the load, which means like you can pass the test. That's a very basic measurement. If you can pass test, you have no problem with that, and you still have extra time. And yeah, for those people from outside European Union, you do have a restriction on the part-time job. That is, you can work many hours as you want. They do have a limitation about 20 hours a week. That is kind of a restriction for the non-EU student, but for EU students, it's all okay. The next one is the deadline 1st of May 2020, or is the registration period over for October 2020? For Gerald, is that the questions?
Well, I'm not entirely sure if the deadline for the upcoming school year is already closed. I've heard that they would have extended it, but that's for the upcoming school year of 2020-2021. But if you're going to study at Saxion from 2021-2022, then the deadline for application is somewhere in February of 2021. Yeah.
Okay. Next questions. Hypothetically, speaking of, I will have a 2-week things going on in the beginning of November. It's possible to do self-study in those weeks when I can't be at a class, or do we have to be attending a class all the time? Obviously, no, it's not good to have something going on. But yeah, it's a hard question. It's very depends on the situation, but in theory, you have to be in the class, because most of class will be practical class. So it doesn't make any sense if you do online, because you can't really do online. You have to be there, do the things by yourself, being able to learn. So that's in theory, but it depends on the situation. Those you can probably discuss later with the student, with the school. If you do have issue during that 2 weeks time, then they probably can figure out something. But yeah, in theory, it's not possible to do without being here. Yeah.
It's a responsibility of a student to attend the classes, and so if you have your own way of acquiring the skills that you've missed, and still come up to the practical examinations and still pass, then there's nothing is going to hold you back. But if you think that there's no way for you to learn those skills, so the practical advice is just really stay on. But once again, there is no there's no attendance being checked. Saxion, it's your responsibility to go to the classes and get as much from it as you can.
Yeah. All right, next one is tell us something about the interview process. It's a formal or informal. It's quite depends on how you determine formal or informal. For me, my interview is through the Skype, because I was in China during that time. So I don't know, it's formal interview because it will be about 20 minutes or half an hour. Yeah, it's just like kind of like interview. You will have like job interview or something similar to that. So the process is quite simple. It just quite depends on what you talk about during the interview. Yeah. Yeah. Next question is probably for Gerald. So will the 2020 academic year start on time, or could the class be held online for a while? Yeah.
Yeah, as far as I know, we're thinking of we're planning for two contingencies. We're planning for the situation that classes can go back to normal, so the students are in the building in Saxion, and also for the possibility that there would be an extension. So obviously, I cannot say anything about extension. That's a government policy and also later on a school policy. So it could be that there would be some variations, hybrids, but yeah, we're making many contingencies that we could return to classes and some of the classes being online still. We'll just
Yeah.
have to wait and see.
Yeah. The next one is, do you have to do your internship in the Netherlands or can you do it abroad? So for international students, it's ideally you do the internship in your home country. That's the principle. If you can, but you can also do it here in the Netherlands. If you think the language is not really a problem to you, because like if you do in the Netherlands, patients and the physio they speak Dutch for the most of the time, so it will be a little bit difficult. So if you can find but if you can find something abroad, like in other countries, it's also fine. It's quite free choice
Yeah.
you can do. Next question. So Dutch is not spoken in the class. Why do I have to do a B2 Dutch course to be admitted? I don't think that would be the cases for the international class to require a B2 Dutch. But to be aware, there's also a Dutch physio major also in the section. So just make sure you don't mix them up. Yeah, because for the international, they do have English required instead of Dutch. Yeah. All right. Next questions. Do I need chemistry? It depends on what kind of level chemistry you mean. For the most of the time, don't really need it, but you do have a high school level chemistry, then it's quite required. It's not really a lot of chemistry we do in the class. It's mainly biology, a little bit. Yeah, it's not really that much you need to know. Mainly the biology part is more important. Yeah. Does the university have sports facility or students if you want kind of how much? You have to know like Netherlands school is not big because the country is not that big. So a lot of schools they set up their camps in the cities. So sometimes they don't really have a lot of facilities. In Saxion here, we do have a gym, but this gym is mainly for the teaching purpose. It's not really for students to use. So if you want to use the gym or have the facility, you have to go to the gym in the city instead of in the school. That's because the space is quite limited here. What kind of minors can we select? There's a lot of minors you can select. They actually have a list of minors, and you can do minors not only in Saxion, but also in other schools in Netherlands. They will provide you a list of minors you can want to choose. It's not necessary to be related to the physio completely, so it's quite free choice you can do for the minors. And you also do the minors in the third year, so you still have some time before to.
Yeah, about the minors, Saxion offers a specific English minor that's related to physiotherapy. There's a musculoskeletal
Yeah.
minor, and you get to learn some more advanced skills in manual therapy, proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation, PNF, in that direction. You can also apply for minors outside of the School of Health. So within Saxion, maybe you want to go into a minor for business. If you want to set up your own business and you want to know how to do that, then you're free to do that. Something in psychology. So you're free to take your minor within Saxion and also a minor outside of Saxion. In the Netherlands, there are other physiotherapy schools that offer minors that some physiotherapists might be in the future that might be interested in. And you could also take a minor outside of the Netherlands within the EU that's under the Erasmus program.
Yeah. You can always join the Erasmus program because they always have a internship or minors in other countries, and you get scholarship for that. So it's quite ideal choice. Next one is, what is expected entry-level salary after graduation? How is life for students? Okay, the first one, the entry-level salary, if you talk about here in the Netherlands, and about 2,000 euros. months?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Gross.
Yeah.
So you still have to take some taxes off of it. So
Yeah.
yeah, it depends really where you want to practice your profession.
Yeah. And for other countries, it's quite depends on because yeah. How's the life in Enschede? I mean, Enschede is basically, I would say, a student city because you have several university based here. It's not only Saxion, also the Twente University. That is like the biggest like American style camp university in the Netherlands. So it's actually quite a lot of students live here. So I think I have the facility for all the students needed. And yeah, I think it's quite student friendly place.
Yeah.
Yeah. It depends on what you really require. If you want to drink a bar, then it's plenty of bars here. But if you want to do something else, then yeah, Netherlands is not a big country, so it's always you can move around.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's all the questions we have so far.
Yeah, but I think Mariana number 2, could you
Yeah.
advise us about your question? Okay, the MA main.
They are for the spots.
Food
Yeah,
spots,
you
like
mean the food spots? Oh, okay. Yeah, I think so. This part I'm not quite sure, but I do know there's a lot. What's it called Turkish immigrants.
yeah, you have a lot
So they're like
of people from Turkey or people with Turkish roots. So
yeah,
so specifically Muslim background. So you do have places where you can get halal food stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's quite common. It's quite. I see a lot Turkish restaurant at least, so I think
Yeah.
it should be available. Yeah.
Yeah, to have Turkish, Moroccan, yeah, those things.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Anybody have questions also? Or does this answer most of your questions already?
Well, Marianne asked earlier about where is it possible to take the practice.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it depends. It depends. If you mean practical class, then there's a lot of practical room available. And if you mean like internship, then as I said before, yeah, you can go to your home country or you can go to other countries. You know that is you can do the affiliation. So it's quite yeah. So where and when's the interview? Okay. I think the interview is online. Is that right, Gerald?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
So you're going to get an invitation from a teacher, and then you set together a time. And
Yeah.
most of the interviews are done online via Skype or something similar. So yeah.
And the next question is, what is average student budget per month? That is depends on where you live. About the most expenses you have to pay is for the renting here. So if you live in the house, the renting is about 300 or 400 euro a month. So that's the biggest spending you have to pay. Other things like grocery shoppings, for me it's quite low. It's like 30 or 40, well 60 or 70 euros a month. But if you eat a lot outside, then it's a little bit higher. So in total, I would say around 500 to 600 euro a month per month. Yeah. But for the housing, if you live in an independent place, you probably can get allowances from the Netherlands government, so they will pay part of your rent. So that would lower the budget.
If you're EU, right?
Yeah. No, if you have resident permit, then.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And the next one is how long is internship in fourth year? So fourth year is basically the whole year is internship. You basically go to 3 different places, and each places you stay about 3 or 4 months, or maybe 3 months.
3
2
months.
months. 3 months.
3.
Yeah. So 3. Yeah. So it will add up to like most of the time in the year, and you spend the little amount of time in the last part as like do the graduating thesis and all the other work. Yeah. So it's the last year basically. It's the internship. How does a practical class work? Do you work on student? Yes, that's the most important part in the practical class here in as a physio, because it's kind of the work you have to always touch and contact people. So in the class, we always maybe 2 people will pair up, and we will have 1 table. So basically, we just practice our skills on each other. So the teacher will demonstrate what we're gonna do in the beginning, and then we practice, and then we discuss, and then we practice again. So it's quite a lot. It's quite important, the stuff in our study.
And finally,
yeah.
he's asking about when do classes start? 7:45 a.m. No.
7:40 a.m. The earliest class we have is 8:30. That's the earliest possible time you can have.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not that early as 7:45, but 8:30 is still quite early, because you have to know most of the hospital and the clinic, they start working at 8 o'clock. So you have to get used to that time frame if you want to work in the hospital, like get up quite early. Yeah. Do you have a quite heavy workload? What's the take on most of time? Yeah, I mean, for the first year, it's quite heavy workload, because here in the Netherlands, the first year is kind of a special year to determine if you can continue to the second year, which means you have to pass most of your tests in the first year to able to continue your second year. If you cannot do that, which means you cannot handle the workload, then you should not continue to the second year. So it's quite heavy in the first year, and most of the time, take my time, I think, is kind of reading, because in the class, the teacher will talk about stuff, but they will give you a frame. That is a frame which is guide you to read more in the textbook, because that's the most knowledge you come from. So you have to actually spend a lot of time on reading, and also the other things is practice, because you know, as most of the skills, always practice. That's make the things good. Otherwise, because we also have a practical class, a practical test. So if you want to pass that test, then you have to show you have the good skills to pass that. So reading and the practice, I think, will take about the most of my time. The next one is, do all students attend lecture at the same time, or is it in batches? It depends. So we have a lecture class that is everybody in the same group. So those kind of lecture class, we always have the same time. For the practical class, since we are divided into smaller groups, so each group will have different teachers, so you might have different times in the schedule. Yeah. And the next one is, how many exams are there? It depends on for the first year, we divide the first year into quarters. So there will be 4 quarters. Each quarter is about 3 months. So every 3 months, you will have a test. And normally, each quarter, you will have 3 or 4 tests, which is a combine of both theory test, that is a written test, and also practical test, which is the test you have to perform. The next one is, in your first year, did you find the exam to be very difficult? Personally, for me, it's not that difficult, because I have a previous education background on biology, so it's not that hard for me. But if you don't have that background knowledge, then you actually have to put a lot of time, because this is the first year you have to gain all the basic knowledge, especially in anatomy part. You have to know where the muscle from, where the muscle attached to, like origin, insertion, and also the function of the muscles. So this is a lot of knowledge you have to know. So the first year is quite, because this is the year considered to lay your basic knowledge there. So yeah, I will see the first year be difficult. It is possible to fail a year. Yes, in the first year, it is possible if you don't pass the minimum limit of the test. So if you fail like 2 or 3 tests, then, but you still have chance to do the retakes. So you can take the test second time. If you fail that second time, then you might have a little bit problem about passing to the second year. Yeah, it is possible to fail.
Just to be clear on that one, in Saxion, we offer students to have 2 chances to do a test. And if you fail the first chance, you still have a second chance. Those are already scheduled within the school year, so students know when that would happen. Towards the end of the year, what Chen said earlier about the study points, the ECTS, the credit system, you need to have about, at the moment, it's about 51 points for you to have a positive advice to go to the second year. In the second year, you have the chance to completely finish up all of your exams in the first year. So you might imagine you're doing your second year exams and also some of the repair work for your first year exam. So if you can, try to pass the exam, of course, in the first chance, and try to avoid second chances. But if that's for the first year, if you fail to get the required points, then you will have a negative advice and it will not be possible to go on to the second year.
Yeah. All right, so next one is, will you say there's a lot of memorization? Yes, like physio and all other medical part, as long as you study medicine, then it's always a lot of memorization, because some things you just don't know it by heart, you have to memorize it. Which subject I find it hardest for you? Personally, for me, I think the pathology is the most hardest for me, because that's a knowledge I didn't really have before. So I have to like learn from zero up, and it's also a lot of memorization. So it is hardest for me. But other people find it different ways. Some people find it anatomy is hardest, because I know some students have several problems passing the test. Yeah, because it's also memorized the stuff. So yeah, first year to expect a lot of memorization. The next one is, have there been a lot of dropouts during the first year? I know for my year, it's not that many people. So we have like 67 people beginning. Only like 4 or 5 people drop out after the first year. So if you calculate that, I would say less than 10%. Yeah.
Most of those people change their minds at any rate.
Yeah.
They think that physiotherapy is not the future for them, so they choose to continue with the program.
Yes. Yeah. And the next one is, sorry, Gerald.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Which subject will be having? For the first year, you will have practical class, that is on the skills. For theory class, you will have anatomy, psychology, and physiology, and also pathology. So it's very basic medical classes you will have. But most of class, your time spent will be on the practical, I think.
Yeah.
All 40 hours mandatory? You mean 40 hours a week? Yeah, I mean, it's not like you have 8 hours class a day. Normally you will have 3 or 4 classes a day, which is maybe 3 or 4 hours. So the other 3 or 4 hours you have to study by yourself. That's how this comes to the 40 hours, I think. Yeah. What do you do during your internship? In the first year and the second year internship, it depends where you go. Some of the students go to the clinic and they don't really do stuff, they just observe. Some people go to the hospital, they actually allow students to do like very easy help jobs, like to do some like very mechanical work or maybe easy work, so they know the students can handle. So it quite depends on where you go. Yeah, for first year it's mainly just observation. For the second year, you can actually start doing easy things. Would you suggest taking other online courses based on your interest during the academic year, or is it too much work? It's very depends on your future planning. It also, it's like if you say like, if I want to do something else beside the physio, then you can also take online classes. And also it depends on the workload. I would suggest just to say if you can handle the workload in the first year, if you can handle that and you feel that you have extra time available, then yeah, online class, why not? Yes, so you have to fit on yourself. I can't really say right now because I don't know how much you can do. You probably don't know either by yourself. Sometimes you have to test to say it. Yeah.
Well, we've had a very interesting session today. Lots of questions rolling in.
Yeah.
Quick fire round, so to speak. but our time is almost up. In a few minutes, this session will automatically end. So before that happens, I think Chan has some more tips about further information.
Yeah, I put some links here. So this is 3 different links you can just use if you want to get more information about Saxion. Those are about not only the physio, but the Saxion as a whole school. So if there's as a program you're interested in, or you just want to look at how the school looks like, then you can always go to all these links. Further shoulder be a problem? No, I don't think. I don't think so.
Well, if you have a frozen shoulder, that should eventually clear up. So it's a frozen shoulder is nothing like you would carry on. So it takes a long time to.
Yeah, especially you are in a physio class, so you probably get some free treatment from your classmates. That would be a good thing, I think. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So any last questions from the group? Okay, thank you all.
All right.
I think we
Thank you all.
right now. Thank you all, and we hope that we have given you enough information to help you make your minds up. And hopefully, we'll see you when you're here.
Yeah, probably see you in the class next time.
Yep. Okay, thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Have a nice day. Stay safe in this special period.
Okay, bye.
Bye.